Doing for this project is really creating laces, and just a precursor for adding laces, you were supposed to have carved a piece of the tongue here on this surface right here. So this middle part should be lower, and you should have marked also where the laces go. So make sure you count how many laces there are, and go ahead and make sure that you have all of that carved out first. You don't want to put the laces on if this part here in the middle where the tongue doesn't have any depth. All right, so I'm gonna actually go ahead and get some clay out. I'm gonna move my clay aside because I'm not gonna attach it just yet, and I'll go ahead, I'll get some clay. Now for this project, for this part of the project, I think it's important that you can flatten clay, and for the most part, I'm gonna try to make it as easy as possible for you to create this clay. Now we don't have a slab roller, but that's okay. I don't think it's necessary for this project. But what we'll mainly do is, if we look at our example shoe, right? If we look at this front part here on my shoe, I just have a single strand. So we're gonna create it piece by piece. I don't want you to necessarily think that for this project you have to create the whole lace all at once. You're really just creating it in pieces, and so as long as you're creating it in pieces, I think you'll be okay. So from here, all I'm doing, I have some clay that's a different color, is I'm flattening it, and I know that I'm going for a single stripe of clay. So there's a couple tools that you can use that will help you out with this. First one is going to be all I have here, this is just the metal rib, and then I can use that to cut. It'll cut it pretty precise. And what you want to do, all right, is make sure that your laces aren't super thick. Now initially you can create an illusion, and I'll help you create an illusion here, is I'll try to create something where it is pretty close to the thinness of that clay, and then I'll show you what to do here. So I'm just going to pick this up. I just slid my metal rib underneath to pick it up, and then what I want to do next, right, is I'm going to pinch the edges here to make it look like it's a bit thinner. Now the laces on the pair of Cortezes that I'm making, they're actually flat, but if your lace is rounded, like I know on some shoes they're more rounded, but for a lot of the pairs of shoes that you guys are making, the laces are pretty flat. And so you can make them this same way. Now let's say you have a more rounded shoelace, then you'll actually have to roll a coil, right? And then just make sure that your coil is pretty consistent. Yeah, make sure that it's consistent. And then you can apply it that way. So, for this lace, I'm gonna bring my shoe back, and I'm just gonna do a test fit to see if it fits, all right? Now, I'm on the front part here, and I just wanna make sure I clean that up a little bit more before actually put my lace on. Now I'm working with two different colored clay here. It's the same type, they're both stoneware clay, but I just wanted to use a different clay so that you could see it a little bit easier on your end. So I'm just taking out small boogers here that I'm going to be covering up a part of that surface, but I want to remove as much clay as I need that's necessary, so that I don't have to go back and do a lot of polishing. So I'm gonna go on this side here and just kind of clean things up. I have a sponge with a little bit of water on there, and I'm just cleaning it up. So what I'll actually do with this shoe here is, I know that the laces will go into the lace holes, so I'm just going to make that just a little bit bigger, make the lace holes a bit bigger. and I just used my wooden knife. And there we go. In comparison, you can see how much bigger they are compared to the other ones. I just have these markings here. You got to make sure that you have the right amount of holes and you've spaced them out in the correct location. And so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to do a test fit of my first lace that I'm putting on. Now, on my particular shoe, there's like this gold piece right here, right? I'm going to add that on later. I just mainly want to add the shoe right now. But anyway, I'll put it here and just make sure that it's the same shape. So I'll actually add some folds on here. If your shoelace is generically shaped, right, you're not looking at your shoe, or you're not looking at the photos that you gathered, then it ends up not looking that realistic. Ends up looking pretty generic, and we want to add some realism. You know, with laces, sometimes they have folds. It folds like a ribbon, and you want to have that quality. Also, when they go into the hole, right, you can see as I'm pinching here, I'm trying to make it into a particular shape. It's a little bit more like a cone as it goes to here. And so what I'm going to do is, I think just to help me out, I'm going to make these holes just a little bit bigger, and I could always close them up. Just going to make them a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to actually remove some clay. I think that'll make it easier on me. All right, so I'm just doing a test fit here. All right, I know that it fits. I'm going to add a little bit of water where it's going onto. And because it's clay, right, I don't want it to fall off. I'm going to have to slip and score this on. And so I'm just using a basic needle tool, scratching that surface on the bottom where it's going to attach to. I know it's going to attach to here. So I need to score this area, score where the hole is, right? So this is really going to take time. And so if your clay is drying up, you got to keep that moist. I'm even going to add some water, some moisture here to create some slip. And then I'll put it back where I test fitted, and I'll go ahead and I'll push that clay down. Now, I could focus on the holes later once I get all this mounted and the clay surface is a little bit drier and it's not so sloppy. Then I could think about putting those, those holes to be more neat. But for now, this is what I'm adding on. All right, and that's a single layer. And the next thing I need to do is look at how my shoe is, and this is where having the actual shoe where you're going from 3D to 3D, right? Because it's an actual shoe to a sculpted shoe. This is where you could look at depth, right? Depth as in D-E-P-T-H, depth. I have this other lace right here, and it goes under. So it's above here, it goes into the loop, then it goes under. That way that, when I go ahead and make the next piece, right, I'm going to repeat the same exact process. And there's no need to have a slab roller. I'm just simply flattening this down with my hand, and I'm using this part of my thumb to flatten that out. So using the same process, same tools, I'm just going to clean my tool up so I don't get any boogers on my new lace. Cut it. Then once you get it separated, right, you can begin to just flatten this piece of clay. You can see how thick it is, and I'll just flatten it with my finger here. So this is how wide it is now. I know that as I squeeze this just with my finger all the way across, it's going to get thinner. Just like that. And then on the edges, I'm going to go ahead and pinch that to be just a tiny bit thinner. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add this next layer on, and it's going to go towards the bottom. Now, you always want to follow where the lace goes. So on my example shoe, this lace right here goes into the hole. It goes under that left second hole. And so it's going to web around and go there. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a simple cut for this project, or this part of the project. I like to use the metal rib to cut because it gives me really precise cuts. And then what I'm going to do to make it look like it's under, right? I'm actually going to go ahead and pinch the edges. Pinch the edges to make it look thinner, because the laces are flat. And like I said, you don't want them to look like they're too thick. And this may take a couple times of cutting. And test fitting. All right, I think I'm almost there. All right, now that I've test fitted, I'm gonna go ahead and slip and score. So this is the path that it's gonna go, and it's going under. Julia, could you go ahead and mute? Thank you. Just adding a little bit of water where I slip and scored. Oh. And then you're going to go ahead and just press that on there.